Hello, it is I are Smart, and today I'm here to talk about the Ahsoka series. Because, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a bit worried about it, okay? That's just what I'm not feeling great about. Usually I'm super optimistic for new Star Wars shows and new Star Wars properties. Like Andor, I was super optimistic for, and I was right, and it was super great. But Ahsoka, I'm just really not that excited for, and there's a couple reasons for it why I'm just very wary or cautious. I think that means the same thing. Anyway, I'm just worried about this series, okay? I'm gonna get into it. So the Ahsoka series is upcoming. It's being made by Dave Filoni, right? It's about Ahsoka, and we basically know because it was pretty much told to us in Mandalorian season 2 when Ahsoka showed up. She's like at the end, like, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? So we know the series is probably gonna be about her looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn, which means Ezra. Because if you don't remember, at the end of this Rebels show, Ezra and Thrawn just like disappeared and was like, "All right, there you go, they're gone." So I don't. What am I gonna do with this story? I'll do something with it later. And we're like, okay, sure, Dave. Anyway, so now it's actually here, and we're getting a live-action series about Ahsoka, and she's gonna be following Ezra and Thrawn to the unknown regions, or something. I don't know. That's my guess. I know there's a bunch of leaks coming out. There have been a ton of leaks coming out. I've been trying to avoid them best I can. Like pretty much the entire story is just there, available on the internet. If you want to go look it up, you can. I haven't, but I've heard a few things that make me a bit concerned. Well, first of all, the show has to follow Andor, which was amazing. I don't know how any show is going to follow that. Also, Mandalorian Season 3, which is probably going to be good since, Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 were pretty good. So, it has to follow these series, so it has high expectations. It's got a high bar it has to reach. So that's already difficult enough, but I have some other concerns. So the first thing I've noticed is that they've casted a bunch of, like, actors to play younger versions of Ahsoka, because they have Rosario Dawson playing, like, Ahsoka, because she did in The Mandalorian. So that's going to be, like, current time of the show Ahsoka. But they also casted, like, two other actors I don't remember the names of to play, like, younger versions of Ahsoka, which means that we're either going to get flashbacks or another thing, and I'm going to talk about that another thing later. So if it's just a bunch of flashbacks to younger Ahsoka, that's cool. But if it's the other thing, then it's concerning. So Iris Smart, what is it? What is it you're so worried about in this Ahsoka series? It's the world between worlds, alright? So basically, in the poster, you can kind of see a design. It looks like the world between worlds, and also that's like a thing I've heard. I heard this a while ago, that the Ahsoka series would be about the world between worlds, which I could have figured, because again, it was another thing that was just thrown in at the end of the Rebels series, like, hey, here's the world between worlds. What does it mean? I don't know. Figure it out later. So, yeah, that's probably what they're going to get into with the series. It makes the most sense for this series to talk about it. And that's my concern, because it didn't do very much with it in Rebels, but already when they introduced it, I was just like, I don't like that. Now, the thing is, this is just a personal thing. I absolutely despise time travel in narratives. I think it ruins any story. I really don't think there are that many good time travel stories. There are some exceptions of some stories that can do it okay, but most of them just do it bad, and it's extremely difficult to do time travel. And if they put it in Star Wars, it would be awful, and I would hate it so much. Okay, let me explain. So, if you're not familiar with the world between worlds, it's basically this, well, it's a place, it's a world between worlds, and Ahsoka and Ezra kind of just end up in it, and Ezra, like, sees Ahsoka from, like, an event that happened in a previous season and kind of, like, pulls her out of it, and then that somehow saves her. So he somehow manipulated time to pull Ahsoka out of a moment where she was fighting Darth Vader, and then that's how she survives and keeps going on in time. So he, like, changed time, so that means time travel is a thing in Star Wars, and that's all it's done so far. And we also know that Palpatine was trying to mess with it somehow, some way, but they stopped him. So, again, the whole idea of time travel is just something I hate, because you can't do it right. There really is no way I've ever seen time travel done where I've been like, okay, that's fine. There are a few times where I've been like, okay, whatever, but most of the time I just start thinking about it, and then I hate it. Let me give you an example. The Back to the Future movies, I love those movies so much. They're just great. I love them, but they're so stupid. Okay, like in these movies, it's the nothing makes sense. It tries to explain away like, oh, we have to go back in time to change this event so that this thing doesn't, like. But then you start asking questions, but like, wait, why does this happen? The whole thing falls apart as soon as you start asking questions. That's why I hate time travel. Same thing with Avengers Endgame. I prefer Infinity War better because, I mean, it was just better. Let's be real. Avengers Infinity War was better than Endgame. But Endgame just like, they're like, yeah, time travel. And they just tried to explain it away as like, oh, it's super complicated. but we have to follow these exact rules. It's like, okay, but why? And if you can do time travel, why didn't you do that before? And now that we're in more Marvel stuff, it's like, okay, hey, remember time travel? We still have that machine. Why can't we just do it again? I don't know. That's the problem with time travel. Is like, it's a can of worms. That's the word I'm looking for. Once you open it up, it creates so many questions and problems. And that's what's going to happen in Star Wars. Because if Ahsoka can just enter this world between worlds, and now she can go wherever she wants and change anything, well, why doesn't she just go back in time and stop the destruction of Alderaan? Why didn't she go back in time and stop Order 66? It just opens so many questions, and it's not going to be explained well. They're probably going to have to be like, oh, well, only certain moments in time can be accessed. But then it's like, okay, but why? And it's like, oh, only a Force user can access this plane. Or it's like, okay, but why? It's like, stop asking questions. The Force, it's mysterious. It's just going to create too many problems, and it's going to be bad, okay? Like, I don't like it. I hate that it exists. Like, I know it's probably going to happen. Time travel is going to happen in some capacity in this series, but I just don't want it to, man. That just seems so dumb. I hate time travel. It just ruins any story, in my case, because it ruins any sort of tension. It's like, okay, why doesn't the villain just time travel to the moment you were born and kill you? Why doesn't the, hero just skip right to the end of the story and now it's done? Like, what? It just creates too many problems, because time travel is a stupid idea, because it doesn't exist in real life, so there's no logical way to make it make sense, right? You know what I'm saying? Okay, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but I really don't like time travel, alright? Have you gotten that idea? It's still cool. It's a cool, like, it can be fun, but I don't think it has a place in Star Wars. Like, Star Wars has a defined narrative, right? If we start adding time travel, and now stuff's gonna get all messed up and changed, and again, it's just a can of worms. It's like, okay, but why can only Ahsoka use the world between worlds? Why has nobody else figured out how to do this yet? I don't know. It's just gonna be bad. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong here. Maybe the series is gonna do an amazing job. Everything's gonna be explained and it's gonna make sense, and I'm gonna be like, wow, I'm an idiot. That's the best case scenario in my opinion. But I'm just very worried, alright? Because my other problem is Dave Filoni, alright? Everyone's like, oh, Dave Filoni, he's so amazing. He made the Clone Wars. He made blah, 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 blah. Okay, sure, he made the Clone Wars, but he also made the bad Clone Wars episodes. There was a lot, alright? Don't lie to yourself. There's a lot of bad Clone Wars episodes. Especially in the early parts. It gets good at the end. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of just in the Clone Wars, alright? Someone had to say it, alright? I'm gonna say it. Clone Wars is really overrated. It has great moments, and some of the best moments in Star Wars, I will say that, but overall it is very overrated. Like, very overrated in the Star Wars community. Also, may I remind you that Dave Filoni made Star Wars Rebels, which I personally really didn't like. I know Rebels has its fans, and I respect them because, I mean, Rebels just wasn't that great. If you like it, that's good for you, but I didn't like it. I really hate, I mean, mainly because it's the Rebels. It's a show about the Rebels, and I hate the Rebels because I'm a Stormtrooper, but still, it's just so much dumb stuff in it. Again, Stormtroopers are just idiots in the whole series, and it's just not fun for me. It's just a pain to get through, and I don't want to watch it again. And same thing with Resistance. Have you watched Resistance? No, you haven't, because I'm one of the 2 people in the world who's watched Resistance, the other person being Dave Filoni. It sucks. Don't watch it. I don't know why they made that series, or why they let Dave Filoni make that series. It wasn't good. Like, it wasn't good. It had some cool stuff in it, but it just was really weird. Like, they had a chance to go into, like, the war between the First Order and Resistance, but instead, they chose to make a story about, like, racing in Star Wars. It's like, hey, remember pod racing? Remember how boring that was? Yeah, here's an entire series about it, but it's on a water planet in the middle of nowhere. And another thing with Dave Filoni is he just loves to just force characters into stuff, even if it doesn't make sense. Like, especially in Mando Season 2, this was very evident. There was just so many cameos in that season, which I think is why I like Mandalorian Season 1 better, because it felt more original. There was more original characters. I like new characters in Star Wars. I like that. That just seems like a cool idea. We have this vast Star Wars universe. Why do we keep going back into the same characters? Like, with the Bad Batch Season 2, again, it was like, we could have gone anywhere for our opening, 2 episodes, but we had to go back to Count Dooku's homeworld to be like, hey, remember Count Dooku? Remember that guy? Yeah, Count Dooku. He was cool, wasn't he? Here's his house. The Bad Batch are in Count Dooku's house. Isn't that so cool? Like, we could have done anything else. We had to go back to another pre-existing character, because why? I don't know. It just upsets me, okay? Because, like, he's just so much, that's all Dave Filoni does, is just callbacks and references. And it's like, it gets old, okay? And if the Ahsoka series is just going to be that, it's just going to be like, haha, prequel reference. Remember when Ahsoka and Anakin and Obi-Wan did this funny thing in the Clone Wars? Wasn't that so cool? Ha, look at all these cool references to the Clone Wars and to Rebels and to all this other stuff. Don't you love this? It's going to get old, okay? That's my issue. I'm really worried the Ahsoka series is just going to get very old very fast. And I know, like, Dave Filoni and John Favreau are working on this whole Mandoverse, you know, with the Mandalorian and Ahsoka and all these other shows that are going to be all connected. Like, it could get very old very quickly, and that's my main concern. I don't want it to get old. I don't want it to get stale. I don't want Star Wars to become the MCU, because the MCU right now is not in a good spot. And if that's what happens to Star Wars, where it just becomes stale and boring, I would hate that. I want more stuff like Andor, stuff that, you know, pushes the boundaries of Star Wars, stuff that opens new possibilities and shows us new ways that Star Wars can be Star Wars. Does that make sense? I don't know. Anyway, this is just a rambling rant I went on, because I'm just worried about the Ahsoka series, alright? So, I think it still has potential to be really good, but it also might suck. And maybe I'm in the minority opinion here, thinking that it'll be bad. But I don't know, let me know what you think. What are your thoughts on this show? Do you think it'll be good? Or do you think it'll be a dumpster fire? Or maybe something in the middle? I don't know. I'm just a guy who talks in a Stormtrooper helmet about Star Wars. Alright, so like, comment, subscribe. My goodness, okay. Excuse me. Anyway, bye. This is the end of the video. Jeez. I'm gonna go get some water. Okay, see ya.